At Your Instep is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello and welcome to At Your Instep. My name is Morgan and I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hello, it is I, Robot Mike. I am a sick boy who has lost his voice. This is how I will be communicating today.
Thank you, Mike. Robot Mike, pardon me. So yeah, Mike has lost his voice. He can still talk a little bit, but he's really pushing for us to let him just use the robot voice.
It's really on your shoulders this week, I think, Morgan, to bring the comedy value.
Bring the funny?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'll do what I can, but I can't make any promises.
I mean, Mike's still doing a pretty good job.
I'm excited about Amonkhet. Viva la cycling.
That's great. That's good.
Viva la cycling, indeed.
Indeed. But we have obviously a fun-filled episode for you. We literally have a robot on the podcast. I also want people to know Mike is actually here. I want people...
All right, I'll stop doing this.
Okay,
now.
thank you.
It was really fun, though.
Yeah, I didn't want.
I just sound like this. If you are like scratching at your ears now, I can go back to the Texas beat. Well, the time doesn't work, but you know.
Yeah, no. I mean, we could just turn down the mics for low and just like we could just do like our ASMR at your end stuff episode.
What? Where I wheeze into the microphone?
Well, no, you just talk real soft. Stop it! Don't do that. No one likes that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm telling you. That's my ASMR today.
That's rough.
So we were both kind of sick last week, and I think I got a lot better, and sounds like you got a little worse.
So I'm actually coming out of it. Ended up being a upper respiratory infection, and I'm coming out of it. I just don't have a voice.
Oh,
like
okay.
the voice has just died. I'd speak a lot for my job, and well, can't hold back. So
It's true. Got to do what you got to do. But obviously, we are in the very early beginnings of Amonkhet spoilers, so we only have really a couple days of actual new cards to talk about, and in all honesty, they've been like putting in a lot of more uncommons and commons in there, so it's not like we got a whole bunch to talk about. We also have some rules updates that are going to be happening with split cards, as well as a notice regarding pro points in the new DCI system, which we'll be talking about. Someone's got their sound on their phone.
I'm sorry.
Yes, you have to use Robot Mic. And then we just want to cover GP San Antonio that was over the weekend. And then pretty much that's it. It's going to be a really, really quick episode, which, due to the illness of Mike, might be to his benefit and yours probably. But let's get started. So, Amonkhet. Let's take a look and see.
So we had probably the big one that we didn't get to talk about last week was the cycling dual lands.
Yeah, I mean, typically with sets like this, we're going to a new plane. New plane's got new lands. Let's check out some lands, and we have cycling dual lands. They're pretty much what they claim to be. They're lands. They are both land subtypes, so they're both like swamp mountain or island swamp, what have you. And so they are fetchable, and they are edge of the battlefield tap lands, and you can pay 2 mana and discard them and draw a card when you cycle them.
Yep, and we just have the allied colors, so
correct. It's not a full 10 set,
right? But yeah, these are great. Obviously, probably would be a little bit better in a control style deck where aggro might still want these, but I think they're great either way. And hopefully this doesn't mean that we're getting any fetch lands in standard anytime soon, because I think everybody's kind of sick of that.
Yeah, I doubt this. When you take a look and with Battle for Zendikar extending into Amonkhet, which wasn't supposed to happen, they needed lands that work favorably with the shadow lands. Right. So this is pretty much, for what I can see, why they have the basic land types in standard. Modern, obviously a fetch lands there, makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I don't foresee fetches.
I don't see these. I guess these may see a little bit of modern play. If you're running like Light from the Loam, or like potentially in like Night of the Reliquary decks or something. So
Even something like red green Primeval Titan decks, Valakut decks might
Sure.
want these. They
more mountains.
yeah, they play a lot of mountains, and sometimes actually you just want to draw a card.
Yeah, I think those will play at least one because you can always, like if you cast a what's like the rampant growth that gets a
Farseek.
Yeah, Farseek. It comes into play tapped anyway, so
who
you're not
cares?
going to get hurt by that. But yeah, these are
It's
sweet.
been mentioned like blue eye control as well. We want some number of these.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maloku the Clouded Mirror decks definitely would be interested.
Oh gosh,
Those don't exist, but
New archetype.
it's okay.
New
archetype.
New one.
Well, we have one that's kind of like a Moloku in standard. We could talk about.
Don't call that Maloku. That's,
Well, it's like I said, it's kind of it's definitely not Moloku, but it has a similar type effect.
You could also see like maybe there's a loam deck that comes in modern that wants to play these sort of lands as well. So you never know, could happen.
I think like even outside of the fixing that it provides, obviously having another easier way to get a land into your graveyard for standard for Delirium type decks is a big deal. I think with really any of the cycling cards that we'll talk about, they kind of provide you an easy way to get maybe some more difficult types to get into your graveyard. Obviously in Modern, it's a lot easier to get a land into your graveyard because almost every deck is running fetches. But in Standard, you pretty much just have Evolving Wilds. So this would be another way to, get that land type into your graveyard for Delirium.
To do so, which is good. Makes sense. Yeah, I think like those are for the early how early we are in the spoiler season. Those are definitely the home run so far. Mm-hmm. What else? Where do you want to move to next?
let's move to the gods. It makes the most sense.
Sure.
To me.
Yeah, so
Sure.
we have 2 of those now.
Yes.
Let's talk about the first one we got because that's the one that's actually in English.
Yeah. So
Hazoret the Fervent.
Hazoret the Fervent, yes. 3 generic red for a 5/4 legendary creature god. Hazoret is indestructible and has haste, but can only attack if you have one or fewer, or block if you have one or fewer cards in hand. And then you can pay 2 generic and a red and discard a card, and Hazoret deals 2 damage to each opponent. So... yeah, obviously they are different, as I think we expected from the Theros gods. They are enchantments. They don't have any devotion mechanics or anything like that. But you do have to meet a requirement. You have to pass a trial before they can really work for you, as it were. Mm-hmm. But regardless, they can drive a car, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, I heard a song about that once.
Yeah, a very popular one,
Is it
actually.
called Hazoret Take the Wheel?
Hazoret take the wheel.
Does the Heart of Kieran have a wheel?
I don't know. Probably. Like a big pirate ship wheel? That's what I imagine.
Absolutely.
Correct. So, this is an interesting card, I guess. I'm not that impressed by it, in all honesty. I'm not going to be like the It Dies the Doomblade guy, but this definitely dies real hard to a Grasp of Darkness, which is awkward, I would say. But, creatures die to removal spells, even indestructible ones. It happens. So, I'm not, super impressed by it. But it's a card.
I'm not super impressed by it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's outplay. Like the Theros gods, I thought all of them were kind of like, I don't know, we'll see. And then they all turned out to be pretty good. Like I think they all saw play at one point or another in standard. None of them were super overpowered though.
Purphoros definitely won a major tournament.
Yeah, Purphoros was definitely a fan favorite, and Thassa obviously proved to be one of the staples of the format. Obviously that had a lot of help, but I think even from when we
all of them, but Heliod saw consistent play.
Yeah, Heliod.
Yeah, Heliod did see some play though. There was a mono white deck, but
So yeah,
in any case,
Heliod saw consistent play.
Heliod was worse because they literally printed an easy answer to him in the format,
same-
in the block.
in
Yeah,
the
the same
same
set.
color, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of awkward.
but yeah, the point is I think those all turned out to be better than people thought. Though I guess Purphoros had some hype behind it.
I mean, Purphoros saw a ton of play in the mono red devotion deck.
Yeah.
So I am a little higher on this card. I'm not saying it's going to do anything great. It bounces the format, but There's a number of really good red creatures we've seen so far. There's a red 1-drop that interacts with cycling. There's a 3/2 haste guy that also like falters for its
Exert cost.
I was going to say surge, and I know that's not right.
Surge.
You have obviously Glorybringer. It was the dragon, and like I think Hazoret maybe at the top of a curve in an aggressive red deck like feels fine because like you're playing it, you're attacking for something that's going to be the abyss whenever it attacks essentially, and then it does exactly what the red deck wants. It turns every draw step into a shock, and if you're already playing it in a deck that might maybe takes advantage of some of these discard strategies like Madness, for example, which we still have in the format. I think there's a chance for Hazoret to be pretty good. Like the dreams of discarding a Fiery Temper to Hazoret and then attacking feel pretty good, but also just like this might open up a deck that wants to play like the Narcomoeba that we have in red, the 1/3 vampire that you can discard a card to switch its power and toughness. We have a red 1-drop that makes all your vampires have Madness. So like I could see building a fairly straightforward red aggressive deck that this is sort of the end. This is the top end, and I like it.
Yeah. We'll have to see. I think it's definitely. I think in order for that deck to exist, we're going to need some more quality early drops.
I agree.
You did mention the 1-drop, which is I think pretty decent.
The 1/2 with Menace.
Yeah, Flame Blade Adept.
It depends on how the format looks. We have a lot of 1-drops. How many of them are quality is of a different question.
I liked that 1/2 better when it had haste and prowess.
I absolutely agree. We do still have a werewolf that flips and has Menace, and that has also has haste, the 1/1 red guy.
Yeah.
And then we have if you had an artifact synergy, then you would also still have Inventor's Apprentice.
We have the vampire too.
I mentioned that one. Yeah, the one that gives them all Madness.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple ways you could build the deck, and I think Hazoret will kick you in the face more often than you might think, and you may have to pay attention to it. So I'll say it now with Hazoret because I know we're going to say it with Kefnet too, but the fact that this can also crew vehicles even when it can't attack or block is interesting.
Man, I just think about this card and then I'm like, man, remember when like Smuggler's Copter is going to be a thing?
Right. But I think
like a bunch of like other things that are actually in this set that say like when you discard a card,
oh my God. Yeah,
just stop it. Like just don't do it to yourself.
It's probably if ever you were like doubting that maybe that was a mistake that they banned Copter.
Make a drink. I know we'll get there.
We will talk about that card next. But can you imagine that card with Smuggler's Copter, Mike?
I know. But going back to our Hazoret taking the wheel joke from earlier, like Hazoret being able to take the wheel makes like aggressive red decks have a hard time crewing Heart of Kirin. Outside of like if you're playing like it's a 3/2 artifact. I'm like
Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Like beyond that, though, a lot of red cards don't do it by themselves. So this one doing that also offers that up for the deck. So
yeah, it's something. I mean, ultimately, I think you'll need to have the right deck for it. But I could see it seeing play, but I could also see it not really doing much. So I guess we'll have to see how the format shapes up.
The whole idea of like the gods being like something that is permanent is really awkward in my opinion, with the emphasis for the set for -1/-1 counters as well. Like indestructibility in a set that has a heavy -1/-1 counter focus, really weird.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
At the same time, though, I'm kind of glad for that because I mean we've been saying it for a while now that they haven't done a great job of printing good answer cards in the same block as different mechanics that they have. So having that safety valve of like, hey, if these gods are like way too good, then at least we have cards that will put -1/-1 counters. You do have a way to deal with them. We've seen some other cards that do a good job of dealing with them as well.
The natural safety valve before was really easy. It took devotion, and you just killed the things that had devote. They offered up the devotion, so you had a built-in out that way. So we'll see though.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the one we got today, which is Kefnet, the Careful.
That's the translation.
As far as we know, this is a translated card. We don't know the exact title, but whatever. Everything else is good.
Kefnet the something. Yeah. Probably Careful. I don't know.
Probably.
No, I think his name is just Tim Duncan.
It is 2 generic and a blue for a 5/5 indestructible flyer. It says Kefnet the Careful can't attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in hand. And it has an activated ability. It says 3 generic and a blue. Draw a card. you may return a land card you control to its owner's hand. So it kind of has a built-in way to get like lots of cards in hand, so it can attack. It's another god that costs 2 and a blue. The body's pretty good. 5/5 flyer, indestructible. It's pretty good.
So this one,
the drawback though is kind of the big thing.
So I guess if you're not doing too much, it's possible to attack this on turn 4, right? You just play it on turn 3, and then you just activate it on turn 4 and attack. I mean, depending on depending on the matchup, that might be a line that you want to take. But also, obviously, in the late game, this card is great too because it's just a mana sink. You can return potentially some of the cycling lands that we've seen to your hand, and then draw more cards with that. Mike, you mentioned a cool interaction earlier.
Yeah, we still have some spell lands from Battle for Zendikar in the format, the common cycle, which they're kind of average, but the blue and the white ones are interesting at least because the blue one says target creature doesn't untap normally, and then the white one says target creature gets +1/+1 in vigilance. So like you could set it up to attack and block by like activating it, returning the whatever it is, the white one, and then playing it and giving your guy +1/+1 in vigilance. So it's there are some interesting ways to take advantage of land drops.
Mm-hmm. And there are still, I guess, in that same vein, we still have some landfall cards, but I don't know how good that is.
Yeah,
they're kind of weak in Battle for Zendikar, so. But that is, I guess, an interaction that you can kind of exploit with this card. But I like this one a little bit better than the red one, but I guess we'll wait and see. But again, I mean, these both might end up being a lot better than I'm giving them credit for right now. But I guess we'll have to see the whole set and see, if we could figure out what the format's going to look like in standard. Anyway.
I'm cool with 5/5 indestructible flyers that want me to have 7 cards in hand. Like, it doesn't make me feel bad.
Yeah.
So
this reminds me a lot of the cards from what was it, Saviors of Kamigawa. There was like a cycle of cards that were like they got a bonus if you had 7 or more cards in hand. So a lot of times it was just.
Was it like one with nothing or something like that had like a bonus if you had no cards in hand?
Yeah, there were a bunch of cards like that. It was a cards in hand matters set. Yeah, it wasn't like the best gameplay because it just actively encouraged you to not play your spells.
Are you telling me that Kamigawa a block that notably has made many people quit the game, wasn't good gameplay? Intriguing.
Yeah. I quit because that block. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I quit before I even saw the hand matters cards though, so there's that.
But anyway, I mean these are cool cards. I'm glad that they made them different from the Theros ones, and I'm excited to see the remaining 3 that we are getting in this set, presumably.
And in case I didn't say, Kevin has 7 or more. So if you have 8 or what have you, you just have to be 7 or above.
Yeah, just whatever.
You must be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah.
All right. So cycling lands, gods. Are there any other specific cards?
Yes. What? Why would you? Don't word it like that. You know that there's another card.
I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice.
You don't want to talk about the trials?
No, we only have one, and
we have one. That's pretty good.
The trials and the cartouches.
Cartouches.
All right.
Cartouche.
Cartouche.
I looked it up.
Are you sure that's how it's pronounced?
I would feel like
no. Sorry, it's cartouche.
Yes.
Cartouches.
With the plural.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I looked that up earlier too, and it did not say cartouche. But
Yeah, no, I just
Cartouches.
That's what I thought in my brain when I first saw it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's right. I'm gonna look it up, and then I still said it wrong. So
Nope. Touche.
that's what I get for trying.
Almost
to
like a tush, but
yeah, and cartouches is the plural.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
we should at least like bring up the interaction.
yeah, just real quick. Yeah. So we have.
I hate you both.
Sorry.
But whatever, go.
All right, so Trial of Knowledge. So this is presumably going to be a cycle in all colors. So this is the blue one. Trial of Knowledge is a 3 generic blue enchantment. When it enters battlefield, you draw 3 cards and discard a card. And then whenever a cartouche enters the battlefield under your control, return Trial of Knowledge to its owner's hand. So you have a kind of a way to recycle it.
Yep. And you might be thinking, well, cartouche, what's that? Well, it's a new subtype that we're getting in the Aura bracket right now. So we have the Cartouche of Solidarity. It's 1 white for an enchantment or a cartouche. It says enchant creature you control. It says when this enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 warrior creature token with vigilance. And it says enchanted creature gets +1/+1 as first strike. I think that this could actually go in modern potentially. I don't know
Really?
I don't know. It might just be like a sideboard card for Boggles because it creates a creature. Like it makes a creature which helps you have like Liliana and protection, which is pretty decent actually. I mean, I'm not saying like it replaces the other one that gives like you have a Hyena Umbra in that deck, you have Ethereal Armor in that deck. I don't know if that really makes or breaks, but it's like the right cost. It is 1 mana, which is what you want for that deck.
Yeah, I suppose that is something to consider. I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. I mean, for a single mana, it could. I mean, there's definitely like a real reason to want to play a card like that. You know what I mean? Because sacrifice creature effects are pretty potent against against that deck.
Yeah. So, but yeah, assumingly we'll have more cartouches, more trials that will all kind of interact with each other. Someone has already pointed out that if there should be a secondary win condition is like if you have all trials, you win the game, which is hilarious. But there probably only being 5 trials, it's probably easy. They really don't try to make a win condition so straightforward.
I don't know. They seem somewhat like the oaths.
Yeah,
a little bit. Well,
yeah,
I guess the one that we have is kind of like an oath of Jace.
Yeah, that's what they are very, very similar to. It feels like so,
but probably more of a limited thing. But
yeah,
kind of a cool way to interact.
Yeah, what they're kind of doing. All right,
okay, let's talk about Mike's favorite.
Let's talk about Mike's favorite card. He's been a patient. He's been a good boy.
My favorite card. It's the best card in the set
so far. I mean,
cat
like you could, yeah.
No, though I guess that's why we got Essence Scatter. That's why we got Serpopard.
Yeah, that's why we need
Serpopard.
No, that thing is horrific to look at.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. That's a nightmare fuel. I know it's based off a real thing that happens. Not a real thing that happens, but a real legend that was.
They're really like the Pulling Dynamite drawing cards now for Wizards. Like
no,
it's a liger.
It's based on a mythical creature that was written about. But that thing's terrifying. Also, still know if it is furry or scaly. Jury's still out.
I remember the legend you're talking about. It was the legend of the house full of dead people, and then the live people moved in, and the dead people wanted the live people to move out, so they hired Beetlejuice, and then the banister turned into a snake.
Oh yeah,
look at its neck.
Yeah,
that's banister snake.
That is banister.
I've read this legend.
All right. So
Drake Haven,
or
Heaven. Honestly, it could be either. I don't really care. Drake Heaven, which is Canada. Drake Haven is a blue and 2 colorless, 2 generic for an enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. I literally have been begging for Astral Slide or like Lightning Rift. This is what they gave me. I'm happy.
We can work with this.
I can definitely work with this.
We literally like all day we've just been coming up with like different interactions for this.
Gosh.
It's been enlightening.
So I wanted Astral Slide. We tweeted about wanting Astral Slide. We're not getting it per Sam Stoddard, and they said because of old templating issues, mainly because it does read very strangely if you look at it now. This seems to be the fix for this because this is what the other the demon, the Archfiend of
Ifnir. Don't play that backwards. I don't know what we said backwards, but
they say not just cycling, but they also say discard. So this one gives me hope that maybe we'll actually see a functional reprint of Astral Slide, which it'll probably cost 1 for each trigger. I just don't care. That's totally worth it. But 2, because this also triggers when you discard a card, yeah, there's a ton of things that work with this. We pointed out like Nahiri came to my mind. You could take up Nahiri, discard a card, pay 1, get a Drake. Well, I mentioned a Gaia Reach Sanitarium. Like every single card gains cycling now. Just like, oh, cool, get a Drake. This also works like something like Call the Bloodline, where you pay a mana, discard a card, get a 1/1 vampire and a Drake.
Like he just comes flying in on
reunion.
Yeah. Now it says whenever you cycle or discard a card, so I think you only get to do it once for Cathartic, right? Because you discard the 2 cards.
You discard 2.
Is that how it works?
I'm pretty sure it triggers twice.
Okay, I want to see on that because like it says, I guess it would be discard 2 cards. Okay, yeah,
that's pretty gross.
Yeah, I like it. So I'm really excited for this card.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's already been brought up to me like, well, there's an infinite combo in Saturday is better than that. Don't care. I'm pretty much at this point 99% certain the first standard deck I jam the classic, the weekend after the set comes out is going to have 4 of these cards, and probably 4 of the white enchantment that's an Oblivion Ring that also cycles, and I'll go from there. Like that'll be my first 8 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that card is
And 4 Plains Island irrigated
yeah.
ditch. That's not it, but the
Irrigated farmland.
that's it. The one that has cycling. So that'll be it.
Irrigation ditch is the what that
Is that
would
one of
be
the Odyssey sack lands? Or?
I have no
That was
idea.
one of the-
I just thought it was like
Invasion.
a
The
Exactly.
invasion one, yeah, you sack it
Yeah.
for 2 of the allied colors or whatever.
So,
yeah.
but either way, this card has this. This is the only card so far that has me like. As soon as I saw cycling and I said like, oh, I need an Astral Slide or something back. Here it is, and this does it for me.
You mentioned cast out. Cast out is
Yes,
three generic and a white for an enchantment with flash, and it's the banishing light, basically.
No, or it was, yeah, it was
Banishing light
actually,
templating.
Yeah.
And it has cycling for 1 white.
Yeah, this card is insane. This card is it's getting a lot of buzz, and I think with good reason. For one, it's actually a way to hit planeswalkers in standard, which is they made like the
Did
kind
you say
of
had flash?
Yes, it has
Okay,
flash.
sorry, yeah.
we have what was it, Thopter? What was the kind of Oblivion we got in the last set?
Thopter Patrol or Pursuit or something like Thopter Arrest.
Thopter Arrest,
Thopter
yeah,
Arrest.
which doesn't hit planeswalkers and it's
Nah.
pretty awkward. This does, so
You had the
that's
other flash one that doesn't hit planeswalkers, right?
we have
Snare, something like that.
Stasis Snare.
Stasis Snare.
And Stasis Snare has seen a lot of play, and I think the fact that it has flash is a big deal, obviously. This one's 1 mana more, but being able to hit any permanent or non-land permanent is, I think, it more than makes up for it. And the fact that it has cycling, which is for a single white, obviously, there may be a lot of situations where you're not going to want to cycle this because it's just a great answer to a lot of different cards, but if you do find yourself, maybe stuck on 2 or 3 lands and just needing to hit your land drops, it's perfectly reasonable.
Hey,
Just 1 mana cycler.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Mounds, Almond Joy comes back. It always comes back, man.
Another, going back to the Delirium, I guess, argument, it's a way to get an enchantment into your graveyard, which is, not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
This could even potentially see Modern play, I think. You don't see too many 4 mana cards see Modern play, but the fact that it cycles for so cheap, I think, gives it potential there. So.
Yeah, for sure. And 4 mana gets around like Abrupt Decay, so you're not
And Inquisition.
so you're not as worried about that on a permanent like that. And there's plenty of troublesome permanents this card could deal with that.
Yeah.
You feel pretty good about. So
Yeah, this is kind of a surprise. It feels pushed, and it's kind of a surprising card. It also just being a single white to cast is like also. Pretty
Yeah, it's not
they,
like
they do
white
they do
too.
sort of mitigate that by having like white cycling on it though.
Yeah,
So-
but yeah. But anyway, yeah, I expect this to be one of the best cards in the set. So
Do we want to talk about Temet or Channeler of the Initiate? Channeler Initiate?
Temet.
Timit's the
Vizier.
legendary mummy. No, I think we should save some.
Okay.
That's my thought. I mean,
That's
Channel
perfectly
Initiate
fine.
is sweet, but I think we should save some.
Okay. Next up, let's talk about some split cards. As we know that it has been confirmed that this set's going to have split cards, and they are the X to X split cards is how they are worded now
So
for this particular set.
yeah, so yeah,
Just kind of get your idea, but that has nothing to do with these other than like they're in this set, so they are making changes to how split cards are represented. Not represented per se, but like their mana costs are sort of
yeah,
represented when you're looking at them in different zones.
yeah. Basically, how they work when they're not on the stack
Correct.
is basically what it comes down to.
So the example they give is destined to lead. So destined / lead. CMC is
I have it pulled up here. So
Yeah.
it's 1 in a black. So Destined is 1 in a black instant. I guess it doesn't matter too much of it, but it's target creature gets +1 and gains
Sure.
indestructible until end of turn. And then lead is 3 generic and a green sorcery with aftermath, means you can only cast it from your graveyard. And it says all creatures able to block target creature this turn do so.
Yeah.
I had to turn my head sideways because
You had to read it
that's how it's-
sideways.
Yeah, I can't.
So, as you know, the old rules sort of like saw this was kind of awkward with certain cards like Goblin Dark Dwellers and Brain Jar and the
Like-
expertise
like
cards,
Isochron Scepter.
Isochron Scepter.
So like, yeah.
So it's like sometimes those cards would see them as being 2 CMC. So you could stick it under a scepter, or you could flash it back with a goblin, cast it for free from a Goblin Dark Dwellers because of those requirements. But when you do that, then it kind of allows for a potential abuse of the card, because then you can also still play the other half of the card whilst doing that basically.
Yeah, I think probably the most, I guess, popular example of this would be in Modern, where you can cast Karizev's expertise and then cast both sides of break-in and entering
Yeah.
for free, which seems completely busted.
Yeah. And based on how the rules are, while complicated, does technically work. But when Amonkhet rolls out, that will change. Basically, what the new rule will be is if this is not on the stack, it'll be its full converted mana cost. So it'd be both sides.
Right.
So something like Destined to Lead, for example, is going to be a total of 6
Of 6.
CMC.
Yeah, I think this change makes sense. I think where the confusion was is like with certain cards, it would work. Split cards would work a certain different way. So, like you said, like for example, like with Isochron Scepter, as long as one half of the card was 2 mana, you could put the whole card under an Isochron and cast either half of
exactly.
it. Or like with the expertise example, because breaking is only 2 mana. And it has fuse, you could do both sides of it, which is like a total of 8 mana.
Because you're casting it
Because you're
for
casting
free
it.
from
Right.
your hand. So fuse requires it to be cast from your hand, which you're doing, and you're not having to pay the mana cost, which Karizev's expertise allows you to do.
Right.
So
So like sometimes it's 2 mana, sometimes it's 8 mana. So like for
Yeah.
example, if you had breaking and entering and Dark Confidant in the same deck, if you reveal it to a Dark Confidant, you take 8
8 damage, yeah.
So it's like sometimes it costs 2, sometimes it looks at itself as 8, and it was kind of like what it led to some confusion for sure. And like I didn't know how the expertise and fuse card thing worked until I saw it. It's not very I don't know. I guess what's the word I'm looking for?
Intuitive.
Yeah, it's not very intuitive to me. I mean, after it was explained to me, I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it still doesn't really make sense.
No, for me, this change is just all about logic. It's just
Yeah.
all about logic. Like, everything you are describing here is correct. Like, yeah, I guess, like, yeah, you're right. You fuse cards just play from hand. You are, so you can cast both sides. Like, I get what you're saying, but nothing about how these cards interact says that you should be able to do that. And it doesn't seem to me like it was designed that way. And it wasn't. And the same thing with, like, the CMC. Like CMC, especially on the stack, is like confusing.
Yeah.
Miracle players got to use wear and tear to count for 2 different.
It was
CMCs
a 1
of
or
cards.
that was another thing. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it counted
like-
as a 1 or 2. It's like so that's another card that's like looks at it kind of differently. So it's just like
so like making it uniform. Like just hearing like some of the judge feedback in our local community where they're just like, "Thank you." Like this was like the hardest part of their modern turns recently because of how rough this is. The other thing though too is I think it frees like fuse cards or not fuse cards, but split cards are not going to go away. Like they have gone to that well, 1, 2, 3, now 4 times.
yeah,
5 if you include like the first transform cards from Saviors, right? So like they're not going away. They're going to keep coming back in Magic, and it cuts off a lot of design space for them if they have to design them so that they don't get broken by Cascade and these expertises and things like that. So this makes a lot of sense. I don't know. It just felt logic to me. Like I'm totally happy with this. I'm sorry. I really am sorry if your deck got banned. Like I understand in Modern that's frustrating. It's happened to me twice.
Well,
like
so
I know.
the deck didn't get banned. It got Miltoned. That's what it did. They found a loophole and they fixed.
Well, that's fair.
They
This
fixed
is
the
true.
loophole. It's great office space deep
So
cut.
as long as you play for contract from below, then you're allowed to keep playing the same expertise. No, in all seriousness, like I said, if you just bought into that deck, I think the nice thing is all the cards that made the combo part of it work were really cheap. And if you bought into that deck, then congratulations, you have like Goryo's Vengeances and like expensive lands that you
Yeah,
can now
like-
play other decks with. So
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
not like out anything that much. I will say, shout out to myself for making a bunch of money off breaking and enterings. Feels really good
did
to know that I made a lot of money off those cards.
MTG finance guru over here.
You know, I don't have a lot of victories because I don't try very often, but that one, yeah. special thanks to Chase Andres for suggesting I pick them all up. Shout out to myself for not being greedy and sitting on them longer. Just so many people to thank.
Good for you. Congratulations.
So this also shuts off the kind of blue-white, like brain in a jar or bird brain decks, I guess. What you'd call them?
That is true.
With
As well.
what's the split card there?
Beck and call.
Yeah,
Beck and
there's
call.
Beck and Call,
Yeah.
yeah.
So brain in a jar with Beck and call, you get to do both sides of that too. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different interactions. You can no longer bust off of a Goblin Dark Dweller if you have Boom
Nope.
Bust in your graveyard.
You can't, boom bust from a
Blood Braid.
elf.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
thing.
And like, think about the statements that you're saying, and sitting here as a listener,
Yeah.
logically, like, why should you be able to cast
to flashback
Apocalypse?
a 6 mana spell
Like,
with
why
a
should-
thing that can only
right.
do 3.
Like
Yeah.
why? Like look at the way the Bloodbraid Elf is designed. Should you be able to play Apocalypse off of that, or Armageddon? I mean, not
Yeah.
Armageddon. Like, no, you shouldn't. No, there's nothing anywhere that says that's anywhere close to how it was designed. So
The one that hit closest to home for me was being able to put Fire Ice on an Isochron Scepter and Cube.
that is, that is I think an unfortunate.
Rest in peace, buddy.
But like it's unfortunate because that one has been around for so long, and that one I think made sense from like you were like, oh look, I'm putting these instants on it, but being able to cast like the sorcery
either
side
them,
of one,
yeah,
like,
you get to choose whichever one.
what I mean? Like,
that
it was
one
like-
felt it always felt a little
it
bit
was just
dirty.
like,
yeah,
no, like any of the other ones you could put on there where it was like, wait, why do I get to cast this one? And it's
that was like one of the earliest ones.
Yeah.
too. That was like the first.
so
I guess I want to say the first like quote unquote abuse of split cards, right?
But congratulations to every cube designer who now has 1 or 2 slots to play with. So
true.
there you go.
Yeah. This is looking out for you. Also, one more thing this does change is definitely your Inquisition of Kozilek targets, technically. So be wary of that. Not saying you'll really come across that a whole lot, but it is different now.
You can still take Wear Tear.
You
It costs
can.
3.
It's still under.
Yeah.
Still 3 or under.
And
Very
that
true.
is irrelevant for Modern. So
True. That is true.
It
That's
is
true.
not irrelevant. It's relevant. For
Yes.
Modern.
Very relevant. So, but yeah, I think this is a good change overall. And like, in all honesty, if you didn't see this change coming, like, if you really like put yourself in disbelief, then I don't know where you were. Like, people had been talking about like them changing how how this actually is going to interact with each other, because it is just like an abuse. So like, you just were delusional, and that's fine if you are, but you were.
I think I wonder if they would have made this change if specifically the fuse split cards did not work that way.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I wonder
that-
if it was just like either or, if they would have left it as is, but like being able to play both sides of it for free, like off of certain cards. I wonder if that was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, I guess we have to step in and like fix this because this is pretty busted.
Yeah,
Like,
that,
I wonder
that-
if-
that is
yeah.
a good thing to.
Like I said, I bet R&D was like, hey, we have some ideas for this. We can't make this if that exists. And they were like, okay. Like that would be enough, I think, as well for them to make that change. So
Now, while we're on the topic of split cards, before we move off of this, it is interesting to note that a lot of these, would you call them either or what are the new
They're
ones called?
and.
it's
It's like destined to lead.
two.
it's two.
Yeah.
It's an implied 2. Yeah, that's what it is.
So a lot of these are instants on one half and then sorceries on the other. So Torrential Gearhulk can flashback either one of them. Is that how that works? Or is it only
honestly
the
have to
instant
check.
side? But
have to
I would
check.
imagine it's either one.
Yeah, I have to check on that. I think you're right, but I have to check on that.
As far as I know, it is either side.
Yeah. So I guess you could still kind of cheat that way, but you're just not cheating on the mana cost as much.
No, you're still doing that too. That's
Yeah.
how Gearhulk works.
Right, but that doesn't say like, oh, an instant with only a certain amount of
Sure.
mana cost or whatever.
None of them seem playable yet. So
No.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing it so far.
No. At least none of them with instants. I do think the Dusk Till Dawn card is really good, but
the one that destroys all creatures power 3 or greater.
yeah, it's a sorcery on both sides, so it doesn't work.
Sure,
with
but
Gearhulk
like
anyway.
I don't even know why that card would be good. So
because it kills everything.
power 3 or greater.
Yeah.
It doesn't kill everything. I promise you, it doesn't.
It honestly doesn't even kill the things you're going to want to
Especially
kill.
when you cast it, you probably still just die to the things that are already in play, including the vehicle that has no power in
or
Titus.
I think
or the
it's-
god they have in
Yeah,
play.
I
I think
don't
it's
know.
very.
Situational.
Format contextual, but I think it's a good card.
Situational.
It is a good
Situational.
card. It's a good card.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. All
All
right.
right. That's cool. Yeah. Very good.
All right, so next up, I haven't read anything about this, which shows you how prepared for the show I was, but I didn't even hear about this, which means that a lot of people might not have heard about this
This was kind of like a late.
edition.
I think it was. I saw it. It was like right around. I think I saw it like as I was leaving work, so it was like
Oh, okay.
5:30 or so.
Cool, so this is hot breaking news right off the presses.
Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee.
And I haven't read anything about this, but it's apparently about some pro points in the new DCI system. Apparently,
Yeah.
you got to do some stuff.
So
Yeah.
So we talked about how they're switching over to the new, I guess, system for
Yeah.
DCI, and you want to make sure that you register your account and that you know what your DCI number is. Apparently, on their leaderboards, they have DCI numbers that are showing up without names attached to them,
Oh no!
and this can affect potentially people getting invited to certain tournaments or getting, things like Rookie of the Year, stuff like that. So this probably is not going to apply to most people out there that are listening to this, but it says, we strongly recommend everyone who knows they have earned at least 10 pro points to check this week's leaderboard.
Oh no,
update.
it doesn't say 2. I need you to know you're covering for a typo. That at least 10 pro points check.
Okay.
Yeah, they just have a typo. You read the 2 that isn't there. I just want to make sure that they know that Dave read it.
I fixed it
Yeah,
for him.
it
Yeah.
should be fixed and it's not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, check the 2016-17 leaderboard and Rookie of the Year at Race Update. So if you think you have 10 or more pro points and you haven't registered your account yet, then go check that out. But it is a little awkward that this is something that came up, but they did say that it would be some pain points.
Yeah, some growing pains, as it were. But so yeah, check that out if you are under that criteria. Make sure that your stuff is updated so you get invited to the correct tournaments and stuff like that. So, I think that's it for community. Before heading into the competitive segment, I do want to give a shout out to Comic Town, our lovely sponsor. They will be running one more, excuse me, Monday night modern event with Modern Masters 2017 prize payouts. It's going to be Monday, April 10th, and then coming up at the end of the month, there will be running a pair of exciting events. On Saturday, April 29th, they'll have the standard spring classic. It's going to be a 2K tournament with 4x Planeswalker multiplier. And the event will be one day after the release of Amonkhet.
I'll be draking people.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, the next day, April 30th, Comic Town will be running a modern Star City Games IQ at the shop. And this, of course, will be in the new 1K IQ format. So 2 exciting events happening at the end of this month.
And that's the last weekend before the shop moves.
That's correct. Yeah, our lovely store, Comic Town, will be moving to a new, fun and exciting location, and we're pretty excited about it. I think.
I mean, I certainly am. It's closer to me.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, in an area that is, I'll say, like a little newer as a part, like what part of town. If you're from Columbus, it's moving up to the Worthington area, like off of 2023. If you're not local, sorry. but there's a lot more food options there too, and just like
It's gonna be a larger space,
Yeah,
for
like-
tournaments and stuff like that. And they'll
like
have-
just like I think everything about it's gonna be
yeah,
awesome.
I think so as well. So very, very exciting stuff on the horizon for Cogtown, and we'll have our BCW ad break here later on in the show because there's some exciting stuff to announce with that. So we'll leave you hanging on. So competitive, we had one tournament, and it was GP San Antonio, which is Team Unified Modern. So guys, what was going on at GP San Antonio?
We will be back after this commercial break.
This gag is great, and that went off perfect. I'm very happy about that. That is, someone probably nearly died when they heard that. That was pretty good.
they had a few commercial breaks, but outside
few.
of that, we had Magic being played.
A few. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that I did turn on that stream and it's just like, I wonder if I'm going to get Magic this time, and it was no.
I tweeted about it. I was like, because I tweeted at them. I'm like, I've tried to turn this coverage on like 3 or 4 times, and every time it's a commercial break, and then I watch a game of Magic, not a match, a game of Magic, and then went to another one. So I tweeted them and said like, hey, like hard to watch all these commercials. Immediately get a tweet back. Coverage has been great. Your luck just sucks. Literally, this is a tweet I got back. I'm like, and I said I didn't say the coverage was bad. Like these are some of the best commentators in the game, commentating on the format that I
Yeah.
love. Like
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like these commercials, like what are they doing? What are they even doing? Because half the time they're not even playing a real ad. They're just showing a deck.
Yeah, I thought it was I guess amplified with this tournament specifically because being a Team Unified Modern GP, like you said, after every game they would have a little commercial break or maybe like put a couple Twitch ads on there. But with Modern, I think we're all familiar with how quickly the games can be in Modern. So you'd have like a 3-minute game and then it's like, oh, commercial. And it's like, oh, let's jump over to this other match that's happening, like on seat B. Okay, and then that one ends within a couple minutes. Okay, commercial break. All right, let's go back to the first match. Okay, that one's over. Commercial break. It was a little much. I don't think it would have been as bad if it was just a regular tournament, but there were more. Yeah, they were showing more matches because of the team aspect of it. That it just seemed like it was like infinite more.
Yeah, and like with a regular modern tournament or something like that, you do have the potentiality of being able to hop from match to match. You have differing match lengths because you have multiple people theoretically in the feature match area, right? So you can pause a match if one's about to finish, try to see if you can actually move them over to under camera,
Which they were doing.
Yeah, it's to like what they could, but I mean, I don't know how many teams they had in the feature match area. Like, you're telling me they have 2 teams over there, and being able to switch them between camera spaces or what have you? Because I know Star City Games typically only has one team that they really can cover while they're doing their team GPs and what have you, team opens or what have you.
I think what they did with this one is they had their main feature match, and then they also had the time shifted.
One.
Though I watched a lot of the coverage, and a lot of the matches actually went pretty close to time. So they only showed the time shifted matches a couple different times. It wasn't overly used because they just didn't have the actual space to show them. And then, of course, there was a Channel Fireball, I guess, covered event, so they had a lot of the standard stuff that they do as well, the Factor Fictions and the Keeper Mulligan.
I mean, I don't have pretty much any other complaints, but I have one other complaint about the coverage, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, I liked it. Just the commercial breaks were just it
was a little much.
Yeah.
It was a little much. Yeah, I mean, I thought the coverage overall, if you take that out of it, I thought it was great. I mean, they had Patrick Chapin commentating, which he hasn't commentated a ton.
That's actually my other point of criticism.
Really?
Yeah, we agreed to this.
Oh, okay, yeah, the finals.
But
I'll agree.
he does this whenever someone he is vested in is on camera. He just has a hard time getting away from personal connections, and he definitively sounds biased. If you watch the finals coverage of Reduke versus was it
Andreas Prost?
Andreas Prost, the Affinity versus Death Shadow match. The game started okay for Reed. But if you paid attention to Andre's draw steps and the way he was sequencing, that game was definitely in his favor the bulk of the time, even though there was a Sony silence on the other side. And Chapin, like, at one point he drew a second Master Ethereum, which was like a great draw step based on like what he had. And he's like, that's cute. And I'm like, but you aren't paying attention. Like, you're just not watching the game anymore. You've decided that Reed's going to win because he hit his sideboard cards. And he didn't. Like, he didn't. He cast 2 Lingering Souls and still just, like, didn't even play a real game of Magic because he died to Master of Ethereum and Edge Champion.
Yeah.
So, like, it just didn't make sense. And there were a couple of games like that where he gets really excited about someone that he seems to know. And maybe he's just hanging out with Mike Flores too much.
I'll agree with you on that one. I still think overall it was pretty great having Chapin there. So we just had an earthquake on the table. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I'm fat. I don't tell you.
But I don't know. I enjoyed it. And then we, of course, had Chapin was paired with Brian David Marshall, and then you had LSV paired with Marshall Sutcliffe. So it's pretty great overall as far as commentary goes, in my opinion. But yeah, it was a fun tournament to watch.
It was, and honestly, you know, you may mention this off camera, but off cast. But it's really been like it was a really more diverse format than I think people were expecting. There were a bunch of articles like trying to say like this is the definitive 3-team, like 3-deck thing, and like it wasn't.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, yeah, I saw. I will say most teams had a Death Shadow deck, which was not surprising. I think that was pretty expected. But
you would almost expect like every team to have some sort of black-green X deck, which I think a lot of teams did, whether it was Death Shadow or Death Shadow Jund / Junk, or a traditional Abzan or Jund deck.
Yeah,
which happened pretty frequently.
Yep, and most teams had a colorless deck. So you would often see, like, for example, like Death Shadow Jund, and then blue-white control. So you have like the other colors. Then you have like Affinity, which is like no colors,
or
like Eldrazi Tron.
Eldrazi Tron, which was the other popular one.
Or you saw like some type of Grixis deck, whether it be Grixis Death Shadow, and then like Abs and Company. You know, so be something like that was probably the more common. You know, some of the more common configurations we saw. Our winning team, Greg Orange, Adam Jansen, and Andres Prost, played blue-white control, traditional Jund, and Affinity. So no Death Shadow decks, which was that was the anomaly, I think, in the tournament. But
yeah, I mean, I've definitely defeated Mr. Orange in a team GP. I like to point that out. So,
Mr. Orange, is that from Reservoir Dogs or
no, it's just his last name, man. I don't know what to tell you.
He's not an agent of some kind, is he?
No, he's not.
He's the citrus assassin. Apparently.
Oh no, this is a team. It's a hot sauce, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. This is this is Ray Perez's team, but he apparently couldn't make the trip.
Sad times.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Pretty happy to see the Ochoa team in there too.
Yeah. So you had
I just want to make sure he's
Ochoa, Severa, and Beckstrom.
Yeah, apparently Severa just top fours every team.
Yeah,
he's just like really good in these team formats. And even the other format in the top, or the other team in the top 4, we had Gerard Fabiano, Eli Cassis, and Ben Lundquist. So these are all 4 pretty quality teams. Not really surprising to see any of them there. Was a little bit surprising to not see Peach Garden Oath not take it down.
Yeah,
so
I mean.
In my opinion, it was pretty impressive for them to make it that far because I think they had 2 unplayable decks. Owen was playing Grixis Control, and Huey was playing Eldrazi Tron, which I don't think are very good, but you know, they're just obviously super good at the game. So
I mean, if we want to talk about a deck, a team playing unplayable decks, I'm just kidding. I don't know how the playability of these decks actually is, but we definitely had Gerard Fabiano playing Madcap Moon, and then Eli Cassis playing Bant Nightfall, which are 2 off the bean path decks. I should say.
Cassis has had a lot of success with the Bant Nightfall deck. So I was not at all surprised to see him playing that. Yeah, Madcap Moon was a little bit. He was probably the only one playing that deck.
Probably
the whole thing. And then Ben Lundquist was playing a pretty standard
Death Shadow list.
Yeah, just Jund Death Shadow, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think we saw, like I said, a lot of Death Shadow. There was seemed to be a lot of blue-white control, which is kind of unexpected, but at the same time, if you think about it, like how the colors and I guess if you just think about the fetch lands that would be used, you know, if you figure a lot of people would have a Jund or Grixis, I guess deck, blue white would make sense. And apparently, it's good against Death Shadow as well. So that also makes sense.
Yeah, I don't find that necessarily surprising. We can take a look at Greg Orange's deck, and we have an Elspeth and a Jace. I know a lot of the versions that were also showing up were playing Gideon Jura. And what a great card to be casting, right?
Card's great.
Just like Gideon Jura, here you go.
Yeah, I know the team of BBD Pascal Maynard, was it Pascal Maynard? BBD Pascal Maynard and Shaheen Sarani.
Yeah.
So they played Death Shadow Jund, Blue White Control, and a Croclan Ironworks deck.
Yeah,
which we could talk about
Scrap Trawler, Croclan Ironworks.
Yeah, we could talk about that in a little bit. But I know Shaheen had his own version of Blue White Control that he wrote about on Star City today. So if you want to see his version, they didn't finish in the top 8, unfortunately, so you're not going to find their deck lists. But yeah, Blue White kind of making a comeback. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of interested in playing these decks, but at the same time, it's like, man, this just you're gonna almost go to time every round.
I wonder if there are a number of matches where like either like Orange or like Turtonwall just didn't have to finish their match. Like there's like, oh, you guys got it. All right, I'm done.
But it shows that with these kind of formats, these shared modern formats, that you do get to see some interesting decks be able to show up. And while there was like a lot of like Death Shadow variations, you expect that it's a good deck. Like of course people are going to want to play it, whether it's Grixis, Abzan, Jund, what have you. It'll be there. Mm-hmm. But you still also have the potentiality of not needing to play that deck and still being able to be successful, or finding a deck that you do want to play, that you can still do so within the format. So there's a lot of flexibility still within the format, I think.
Yeah, I will say this while we're still talking about blue white, I do think blue white specifically gained some percentage in this particular format because you didn't see a lot of traditional Tron decks. You saw some Eldrazi Tron, but you didn't see the traditional, Karn, Ugin, like we're gonna assemble Tron on turn 3.
Yes,
like, a lot. So
which typically go over just over the top of the control decks. Yeah,
typically not going to be a great matchup for blue white control. Also, I didn't see any dredge. I think a lot of the teams that I might have considered playing dredge probably ended up on Grixis, or not Grixis, but Jund Death Shadow, because the lands are going to be
the lands
same.
Overlap.
So there might have been a couple of dredge decks out there, but I think for majority of the teams, they opted to go with Death Shadow in that kind of color scheme.
Yeah.
So I mean that dredge is I think another deck that would give this deck problems, and you didn't see a lot of it. So in a normal modern event, maybe blue white's not as good, but
your mileage may vary.
Yeah, but it still seems like I mean, I guess it's been doing pretty decently well on Magic Online as well. So I mean, it's something to if you like playing Control, looks like we finally have I guess not finally. We've seen Control pop up here and there in Modern, mostly Grixis, but here's another deck that you could potentially play.
Yeah. And I mean, nothing is it's really hard to find a deck that is just stone unplayable in Modern. You can really kind of go up with most any deck and do decently well. So
yeah, but I think with blue white having a good Death Shadow matchup, then it's probably better now than it has been in a while.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see that point.
Good.
I was just gonna go to the Karkland deck. Did you want to talk?
I want to talk about some of the. I just want to say, like, the saddest tragedy is the 5th place team.
That was
Chris Pecula, Ben Sack, Jarvis. You were like, oh, Chris almost back to backed it.
Yeah, they were undefeated after day 1, so it just seemed like, oh man, Pecula's just gonna run it back.
But I also want to mention a team. The team came in 8th place. which was hold on a second, was Rob Pisano, Brian DeMars, and Brandon Pascal. Mainly because Brian DeMars spent a lot of time writing on Channel Fireball, and I actually talked to him a little bit at the RPTQ. But he was talking about how like none of the modern decks he normally plays were really viable in this format, so he had to work on picking a deck, and Vance Eldrazi is what they settled on as a team, and his sort of like going through and like trying to learn a new deck in modern, and like he really sort of like he wrote about the options for this, what his best choice would be, how he would learn to play the deck, and based on all of his social media interactions, that seems to have really come to like Doctor Strangelove Van Eldrazi, you know what I mean, just like love the bomb. And I think it was pretty awesome because he wrote this whole article series essentially of like him choosing his deck and learning how to play it. So one, if you knew him at all, which a lot of people would, you'd know what he was playing. And two, like he showed you how in modern you can switch decks and how you can make, we talk about like how being well versed with a deck is important, but also like how he literally showed you the step-by-step process for how you can go about learning a deck and working on it with a team, and then put up the results with it afterwards. And their build of Vance Eldrazi is even a little more interesting because, hey, they have 2 Gideon Jurors on the sideboard.
Hey.
So there you go.
Yeah, I think they had kind of an unconventional lineup for that team. So they played Vance Eldrazi, Red Green Scapeshift, and Affinity. So, another team that did pretty well without a Death Shadow deck.
Right.
So, it definitely was not a requirement to play Death Shadow, though. It was probably the most played deck if you looked at the field. I do think it's possible, like going back to what you're saying about like picking a deck or like picking up a new deck. I think in Modern, it's probably more, we kind of talk about like knowing your deck, and there are a lot of people that play the same deck all the time, and getting to know your deck and all the different interactions. Like it's definitely important. But I think in a format like Modern, where for the most part the format's not changing too much, you see kind of the same decks pop up. I think just knowing the format overall is probably more important in a format like Modern than like knowing your deck specifically, because if you know the format as a whole, you can kind of almost pick up any deck and know kind of what people are going to try to do. Like once they play, somebody goes fetch land, Overgrown Tomb, Thoughtseize you're like, okay, I probably know what's going on. Or like if they go like, turn 1 cycle Street Wraith, okay, yeah, it's going to be one of 2 decks. So having that just format knowledge, I think, goes a long way in something like Modern versus something like a Standard, which is always changing,
Yeah. So it was interesting.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's just a nice thing that you can really take a look at Modern, and even when people are trying to say that it's not diverse and that there's just one best deck, and that that they're talking about like Death Shadow needs banned or something like that, it's like, well, it's still a creature. Like there's still things that you can do to combat it. Like the format just has to adapt, and it's really starting to. I obviously think you have to take all the results from this week's tournament with a grain of salt because it was unique. But I still think like there does show some adjustments are happening for sure.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about Pascal Maynard's Sweet Brew?
Yeah. So I agree with what you said. Is like what you do have to kind of take the results of this tournament with a grain of salt. I do think you can take some things away, though. I mean, you just have to understand that like this is not a normal metagame for Modern. Even though you did see a lot of the staple decks, there were some other decks that are normally pretty well represented that weren't here. But yeah, Pascal Maynard played a deck that I think is picking up some steam. I know that Conley Woods has been streaming this style of deck for a while now, and I know Michael Jacob streamed a little bit with it. It's the Krark-Clan Ironworks. I guess the new Krark-Clan Ironworks combo deck that kind of revolves around playing a lot of the like eggs style cards. So you play like Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star, Terrarian, Acre Wellspring. The card that really, I guess, gave this type of deck new life is Scrap Trawler. So that's the 3-mana 3/2 that whenever an artifact dies, you get to return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand with a lesser mana cost. So this deck can kind of do some crazy things. So basically, once you get a Krark-Clan Ironworks in play and a Scrap Trawler, you can kind of just go off by playing a bunch of these cheap artifacts, sacrificing them, drawing cards, returning. If you have a Mox Opal, you get to just like play it, add a mana, sack it to Karkline Ironworks, then they sack a Terrarian for 2 mana, return, Mox Opal, replay it, and so forth. So on and so forth. The payoff eventually is, it plays Sanctum of Ugin, and I guess the big innovation that Pascal was playing was Hangerback Walker. So basically, once you get enough mana, you can play a Hangerback Walker for 8 mana, crack your Sanctum of Ugin to go get an Emrakul, and then you can then sacrifice your Hangerback Walker and then all of the Thopters for 10 mana. So you get most of it back. I guess all of it. You get even more back.
It's infinite mana, right? Because like you pay like so for each mana you would pay for it, you get one more set of 2 mana, right?
Right.
Because you get the creature and then you get all of the tokens for it. So
right. Yeah.
That is infinite mana, right?
It's. I don't think you can get technically infinite, but you can get once this deck gets going, you can pretty much get as much mana as you need. You may be able to go infinite.
So you play it for 1 counter, so 2 mana. Play it for 1 counter, sack it for 2 mana, get a Thopter token, sack the Thopter token for 2 mana, that's 4, and then you get the Hangerback Walker back off the artifact dying for the Scout Trawler, correct?
But you need to sacrifice another artifact to get the Hangerback Walker back. It doesn't get back itself.
No, but is it non-token artifact dies?
It's just you return an artifact with mana cost less.
Oh! It has to be less distinctly.
Yeah, so the token being 0.
Okay, so then it's not. It's not.
So it doesn't.
It's not infinite by itself. It's infinite with any other piece. Though
you can. Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty much as much mana as you need.
Sure.
And you can easily cast an Emrakul.
That's where I was messing up. It's less than okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're essentially just hard casting Emrakul. We're not doing any haste shenanigans. We're just taking another turn, attacking you. Yeah. So I thought it was a really sweet deck. And it's one that I've kind of been interested in. I've seen it pop up on Magic Online here and there. This was a really interesting version. This is the first one I've seen that has Hangerback Walker in it instead of something like Mirror Battlesphere. That was kind of the card that people were playing in order to trigger the Sanctum. And it kind of worked in much the same way. Like you cast that, and then you get 4 tokens with it, and you sack it for 10.
But I can see how the Hangerback Walker would just be better as you're going through because you can get it back consistently from other things because it also costs 0 in the graveyard.
It's also castable if you're not going off. You
Right.
could just play it and then block 2 times. And the fact that you get it back for 0 is a big deal. Another kind of funny but actually pretty cool interaction in this deck is he's playing. It's essentially like a mono artifact deck, though it does have 4 Ancient Stirrings, so you do want some green mana.
Shocking. Best cantrip modern.
Right. And you could just play Forest, right? But I mean, if a lot of people playing Death Shadow, you could just play Grove of the Burnwells and just give them life. And as a Death Shadow player myself, playing against Grove of the Burnwells is pretty annoying.
It makes all your math just a little bit worse.
Yeah, you can't just run out a Death Shadow. A lot of times you'll run out a 1/1 Death Shadow or a 2/2 Death Shadow against a deck that is not going to have a lot of removal in it. Because in the coming turns you'll be able to grow it pretty easily, but you might think twice against about doing that against a deck that has Grove of the Burnwells in it.
You'll gain a life. You'll go to 13.
Yeah, it just
what happened to your Death Shadow?
Status effects.
Yeah, sometimes just kills Death Shadow. So I thought that was pretty funny. I have his main deck listed here, but it doesn't have his sideboard. So I don't know if he had any red cards on the sideboard. I would guess probably not. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and I think. He's probably going to write about it this week, so maybe even by the time this cast goes out.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see an article pop up.
Yeah, so look on Channel Fireball. I mean, he writes for them, so.
Yep.
But yeah, I would expect this deck to see a lot more play. I think it's kind of been brought into the limelight a little bit, and it's something pretty new, I think. So I think people might flock to this a little bit, so. It is kind of disgusting if you're playing it on Magic Online because with all the triggers. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this pop up and be a more popular deck in Modern going forward.
I feel like it probably isn't. Okay, so if you're playing with Grove of the Burnwells, sure. But otherwise, it's probably not even that expensive.
Well, they're the Mox Opals.
Yeah, okay.
This is another deck that's just Mox Opal, why is this a legal card?
That's the thing. There's some decks keep popping up like this, and it's eventually they're going to put, it's okay, guys, we told you to play nice with your Mox, and then every Affinity player is going to be it was their fault. Wasn't us. It was them.
Yeah.
Lantern and Paladin and stupid Kirkland Ironworks. You guys all suck.
This is like a lot like I guess it's not really, but it kind of reminds me of like the Pure Steel Paladin deck when SRAM got printed, and it was just like, oh man, like this deck's gonna be crazy, and then that deck turned out to be not really that good, pretty inconsistent, and like not great against removal. But like this one seems a lot more resilient. Like you even play stuff like Inventor's Fair, which is like that's your tutor, and you can't really easily interact with that. You can't counter that.
I will say, I mean, the deck has to have Kirkland Ironworks to really get the job done. So there's definitely a lot of ways to interact with that. Not to mention the fact that like Stony Silence is hilarious. So
Stony Silence
is really good.
Well, that's also true.
Yeah, Stony Silence recipes definitely do a number on this deck, but I mean, from what I've seen, the versions that I've seen, they definitely come prepared. Like post board, they do run this deck ran 2 main deck engineered explosives.
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
They definitely run things like wear tear in the board or like
they definitely have to.
The 1 mana. What am I thinking of? Nature's Claim.
Fragmentize or Nature's Claim.
Nature's Claim, yeah. So I think definitely like any deck that's like running white, you're just going to bring in those cards because you just get hosed so easily by those enchantments. But I mean, it's a scary deck. I mean, basically, when you cast Kirkland Ironworks, most of the time you're winning.
Yeah, makes sense.
So definitely be aware of this deck.
Be aware, tear.
Be aware,
deck.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot more resilient than it may appear on paper. So
cool.
Let's little impromptu Dave's Deck Corner.
Yeah,
we're bringing it back.
Bringing it
for
back
this week anyway.
Is there anything else from GP San Antonio that we want to talk about? Nah. All right. Before we close out the show, we do want to give a very quick shout out to BCW Supplies. They're a lovely sponsor of the show as well. They are actually having they're sponsoring an upcoming Challenger Guru event ahead of Star City Games Worcester. Did I do a good job?
That's all right.
Worcestershire?
Yes.
It was better than Mike's.
So again, they are going to be BCW is going to be bringing Team Metagame Gurus to gaming, ETC or gaming, etc. The superstore that's located in Acton, Massachusetts. So it's at 531 Main Street. If you want to attend, this of course is also an event we shared on our page, but is also on the gaming, etc. Event page as well, so you can visit their store page and check out the event. So this is a great way where you can go out and you can challenge a metagame guru to either a game of Standard, Modern, and Legacy, and if you win, you get a I Beat a Guru T-shirt as well as a Deck Locker LX from BCW Supplies. So again, thank you to BCW Supplies for having these events. They're actually pretty great, and when we've been to them in Columbus, and they're a lot of fun. So definitely head out to Gaming Etc. on April 7th. So that's the day before the Star City Games open, and it's going to be during their F&M. So definitely check them out. Now BCW again, obviously a sponsor. They have provided us with some awesome things to give away to our listeners. And we want to start doing that. So starting this week, we are going to be sending out a tweet that we're going to want you to take a look at, read the rules, and enter in for a giveaway for one of those Deck Locker LXs and some sleeves. So we'll try to match them up color-wise. We'll make sure Mike doesn't do it.
Hey, I think, are we going to let them, choose the colors from what we have?
We could, most certainly. I don't see a reason why not.
All right.
So you get to choose your color from the selections that we have, and then you can pick out some sleeves, and then we'll ship them out to you. So more details to come on that later on this week. So if you aren't already doing so, follow us on our Twitter, and that's where we're going to be holding this contest. So it's if you go to twitter.com/YourEndStep, and we'll pull up our at Your End Step page.
Shipping to the United States only.
We'll have all the rules and everything like that for the giveaway once we post the link and everything like that. But it's going to be a nice fun thing for our listeners. So a great way for you to get some BCW supplies. We might throw in like a sticker or something like that.
Yeah, something that says us.
Yeah, why not?
Signed picture.
Yeah. some nice headshots. Yeah,
One of my socks with a hole in it.
It might be worth something someday. Yeah.
yeah, it could be.
Yes,
Especially the sock with a hole in
when
it,
paper is scarce because trees have died.
Correct.
You want a game worn sock
Oh
from
yeah,
from
game
Mike.
worn. I like that.
Yeah.
Game,
Oh,
game
man.
worn.
Yeah.
No,
And
what's that?
this will be real game worn. This will be no Zach Britton like game worn jersey but didn't play in the game. Like no.
Yeah, like it'll still smell when it comes in the mail.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
we're not
no one
watching
wants
that.
this. This is we're disincentivizing people from entering our contest.
Yeah. So fine. Don't be just. If you want more incentive, yeah, like I said, go to Twitter and we did tweet out a little sneaky peek.
Yeah, a whole litany of all the products that we have to give away. So definitely check that out. All right, going to the end of the show here, the wrap up. On this weekend, we do have a Star City Games event. It is going to be in. Okay, it's going to be. I don't know what you want me to say or not to say. Oh no! Robot Mike is broken. Oh no!
What's going on, Robot Mike?
Be back after this commercial break.
All right, now we've already called back to our bits. I don't know how funny it's going to be now. Now it's less.
Sorry
funny.
for the delay. No, that's not true because if we could have gone with 400 of them.
No, I guess
just to
that's
prove a
true.
point.
We could have. That would have been awful.
Stay tuned next week.
Just like every second, just be like, we'll be back after this commercial break. We'll be back after this commercial break. We did
I get it. No,
because
it's
we
good.
appreciate you.
Yeah, we're professionals.
Wow.
That's not even true. Literally almost made Dave do a spit take at the word professionals. Yeah, I know. It's a joke. It was a joke.
Hey, when we had Sam Stoddard on, he was quite impressed with our setup.
Sure.
He's like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
what's going on here? You guys have microphones?"
Many moons ago.
Yeah, they used to record into a phone at a cheesy Charlie's. I get it, but
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm going to let Dave say this as he will say it properly for the listeners at home. So it's going to be Star City Games.
It's Worcester.
Worcester.
Yeah.
Worcester. Legacy.
Why
I
do you
don't
say it like
understand.
it's foreign? Like,
I don't know.
It's
Because first of all,
no. So because I need to understand that I grew up in Northeast Ohio,
Yeah.
and about 20 minutes to the east of me, there was Worcester, Ohio, which is spelled Wooster.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's fake.
Because that's
Worcester.
how O's sound together. They go ooh like ghosts. They go ooh.
So how would you say the word WORC?
Worse.
Worse? Sure, we'll take that.
So Worcester.
Was. That's was.
Okay, thank you, War Total. But
Watertown.
And there's also going to be a GP Mexico City, which is going to be team limited.
I feel like that's not getting hype.
No,
Like Team GP.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah, this was like there's kind of like a wall between us and like the information.
We get it. You done did it. You made the wall joke. We're very impressed.
I wasn't looking for like a bunch of like. I mean, if you want to rain compliments down on me, that's fine.
But yeah, so it's going to be team limited. It's probably just it's team limited, which I feel like gets less traction. I don't even think it's going to be covered, which would fall in line with most team limited GPs that they don't have coverage typically.
It's still sweet though.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and
if you're going, have fun.
yeah, for sure. I know that is. I feel like that does get a lot of. We have a lot of like people that just like go to a lot of GPs and they like try to arrange to go to Mexico City to do the limited one. So it'd be cool. But that's how everything is happening over the weekend in our our neck of the woods and extended, I guess you could say. So if you have any questions, concerns for us, or you want to reach out to us, or you want to get on the ball and get ready for our giveaway that's going to be happening this week, give us a follow on Twitter. You can do a search for Your End Step, and then when you add us, then it's at Your End Step. Clever. We also do have a Facebook. It's facebook.com/@YourEndStep, or do a quick search for @YourEndStep. And while you are on there liking our page, you can check out our sponsors pages at Comic Con Gaming Center and BCW Supplies. So definitely give them some likes as well. We also have an email address @YourEndStep@gmail.com and a website @YourEndStep.com. You can also get us via iTunes or on the Google Play Music Store. Or if you want to check out some other Magic-related podcasts, definitely check out MTGcast. We are on that network, and it is a great repository for many, many other Magic the Gathering podcasts. So go there and find a new show to listen to. There's plenty of them on there, but that's really going to be everything for us this week. We do thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.